All right, today you guys are in for a super special treat because we have New York best-selling author, the author of The Christmas Box, Richard Paul Evans, as a guest in our studios today. He's going to come and talk about his latest release, the Noel Letters, that just released a couple months ago. We're also going to talk about the Christmas Box House, his charity that he has, and so much more. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned and continue listening to the rest of the show. Good morning, everybody. You are listening to K-Talk Radio 1640 AM. This is the show Utah Home Sweet Home. I'm your host, Yoshi Shiraki, and today our very special guest is Richard Paul Evans. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's good to be here, and thanks for the snow.
Yeah, yes. I don't have to introduce Richard Paul Evans, but I'm going to read a little bit here of a bio for those of you who may just want to hear how accomplished he is. Man, when I read through this, I knew you were accomplished, but this was great to read through. So, #1 global bestseller, The Christmas Box. I love this. He never intended to become an internationally known author. The story was written as an expression of love for his 2 young daughters. 3 years later, this quite simple story of parental love and the true meaning of Christmas made history when it became simultaneously the #1 hardcover paperback book in the nation. Since then, more than 8 million copies of The Christmas Box have been printed. I saw a speech that you did that talked about 8 million copies being equivalent to how many Empire State
Oh my
Buildings?
gosh, it's like 400 Empire State Buildings.
Four?
It was, yeah.
World Trade Centers or
yeah,
something?
it's the Mount Everest 11 times, yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. So that's incredible. 41 consecutive New York best-selling books. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. Do you just write full time? Or do you enjoy life? do you ski and hike?
No, I know. I laugh because my wife would have broke out laughing if I said that. She's like, she's always trying to get me to write full time. I spend 90% of my time I'm an entrepreneur. I run the charity.
Yes.
And it's like, the thing is about writing is that it's painful. So, and so I do it in doses, actually.
Got it. Well, I don't know how you were able to put out 41 consecutive New York best-selling books in doses.
I've been doing it since I was 29, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was a kid when I wrote that first book. In fact, last night, Carrie and I watched The Christmas Box. She goes, let's watch that DVD. We haven't seen it for 10 years.
Wow.
And watched it. It's like, oh my gosh. There's a scene where actually my family is in the movie. And
Really?
It's like, I was a kid. I was so young. And I'm holding my daughter. My one daughter is now an international best-selling author. The other is in her doctorate program. And I'm holding their hands, walking through, the little girls walking through the parking lot with Maureen O'Hara and Richard Thomas. It's pretty amazing.
That is amazing.
So, yeah, my daughter was with us. She's from Texas. And we just stopped it. It's like, look, there you are. This little girl with a bob cut. It was awesome.
That is fantastic. What scene is this in the parking lot? Which parking lot?
They go to buy a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And so that's where we have our Cameo. And,
Ah.
and so the real Evans family crosses. We actually passed the movie Evans family.
Gotcha. Yes, I love that he was Richard Evans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that actually kind of freaked me out because he kept saying Richard and Jenna and Carrie. It's like Carrie. This is like, oh my gosh, that's my name. And it's just like it felt so weird watching it. So
Right.
It's been a long time.
Right. That's amazing. So now you've just released a book called the Noel Letters. I've got a picture of it right here. Do you mind sharing a little bit with us about what this book's about? I'm always fascinated with the inspiration of things. In the past, I was in the fashion world, and we'd create looks for the new collection. And where inspiration comes from sometimes was like, I had a colleague that was like, the way the grass was mowed inspired him to create a haircut like that once.
Oh, I love that.
Yes. So I love hearing inspiration stories behind something.
This, I have no idea. I wish I could give you a good story. I mean, the story itself, it's about a young woman coming home. It's about the truth will set us free, and we all have false beliefs in our past. And this is about a young woman coming home to see her father. They're estranged. She hasn't seen him in 10 years, and she's only coming home because he's dying. And he begs her to come home. As he says to her, there's things that need to be said.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want to hear them, doesn't want to talk to him. But she's now a book editor in New York, and he actually got her in there. He owns a bookstore. He's a very intelligent man, but he dies before she gets back. And She gets back and she thinks she'll be here for a few days, wants to go back to her life, and everything's uprooted. She starts to understand that what she believed her world to be is not true.
Oh.
And it's a really powerful experience. I mean, I've had that experience in my life. I think we all have. When all of a sudden some of the premises that you base your life on, you realize foundationally that they're not true.
Yeah.
It shakes everything.
Yeah.
But it's also a beautiful release. That's where we find truth and freedom, and so that's what the book's about. This woman, and you start out not really liking her, and you'll love her in the end. It's just like, but it's also a character I think we can all relate to.
Very cool. Very cool. And is it a sequel to anything?
No,
or
it's not. It's not. My publisher said, please don't call the next book Noel anything, because people think it's part of a series. But then what I did a collection, and I decided about 10 years ago to go back and really write some Christmas stories, holiday stories every fall. And so I had the Mistletoe Collection and the Noel Collection, and they've done really well. I mean, Noel Diaries being produced as a feature film by Netflix.
Wow.
Starring Justin Hartley. That's in production right now. Noel Street's being written to a movie by the guy who wrote Pretty Woman. I mean, it's almost everything I've written has been produced or is being produced or is being shopped right now. So
wow.
Yeah, I'm on kind of this crazy run right now.
That is insane. So yes, let me go back here for a second. According to this, and it sounds like more, 7 of your books have produced into television and movies that have starred well-known actors as Maureen O'Hara, Rob Lowe, Christopher Lloyd, James Earl Jones, Naomi Watts, and Academy Award winners Vanessa Redgrave and Ellen Burstyn. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Pretty cool, yeah. My son wasn't impressed until he realized that the Back to the Future guy was in my movie. And it's like, oh. It's like, yeah, Christopher Lloyd. And I actually had a cameo with Rob Lowe, which was pretty funny, because I walked up to him, and it's like, all the extras on the set, it's like, don't talk to him. It's like, there's all these girls, he's looking at me, like, don't you dare approach me, And I go, hi, Rob, I'm Richard Evans. And he's like, oh. He's like, oh, it's okay, you have permission. You're an author. It's like, and he goes, oh, I'm playing you. I go, kind of, yeah, don't tell my wife that. But they were all, it was in a perfect day, and he was playing this author.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Very exciting. So, if you don't mind me asking, how does that look? So, I had a gentleman who was on the show. He played for the Oakland Raiders, right? And the initial, hey, you're going to be on the Raiders. What does that look like? Say, Richard, somebody wants to make a movie of one of your books. Do you just get this email or phone call, or do they have to ask you for permission first? Or
Well, I have an agent.
Okay.
And so it all comes. The agent will call me. And I talk to her, almost every day. We're close friends and have been. In fact, she's probably closer to my wife now than to me and my kids. We basically were both kids when we started. When she took me on, and her name was Lori Liss. She had discovered the bridges of Madison County, which was as a kid, So this was and no one wanted it, and she took it and became the biggest book. One of the biggest books of the century. It's certainly the biggest book in America, and so that was where she started. But she was really young, and so I've been with her for a long time.
Wow. So that makes sense. Like the athletes, it goes through their agents as well. Same thing with you. I had a buddy who was a well-known painter, not like painting a house, but like painting pictures,
Right.
and he had an agent too. So that obviously makes a lot of sense. So then they approach your agent, and then okay. And do you have?
I actually have 2 agents.
Oh.
We have actually have 3 agents. If you get technical, I have for international rights,
Oh.
and then I have an agent for movies with Paradigm back in New York. She's
Right.
a pretty big agent.
Got it.
Yeah, it took us years to get in with her, but now she's doing great. So my agent, but Lori she's really, she kind of pulls everything together. Everything comes through her.
Got it. Okay. Very cool. Do you get back to New York a lot?
I used to.
Yeah.
I haven't for a while. COVID's kind of just stopped everything.
Right.
But yeah, I usually go twice a year. I've probably been there 30 times.
Wow, very nice. So speaking of COVID, you just shared with me before. I was asking you if you're doing book signings and tours right now where fans are meeting you. That's been shut down completely, or?
Yeah, we did a drive-by. People, just for my fans, we did a drive-by. People brought their books by. It was kind of fun. My assistants, it was kind of funny. We stood in a parking lot and people came. But that was just kind of that I love my fans. I just wanted to support them. But we don't tour, and the thing is, the whole touring model's been kind of uprooted anyway. Used to be I'd go into town, say I'd go into Cincinnati, and I'd be on the cover of the Cincinnati Post, you know. You'd
Yes.
go in there and you'd be on the TV and radio, and what's happened is there's kind of been a deterioration of that. So now there's not much media, so it's kind of no point. It's very expensive. You know, a tour costs upwards of $50,000.
Wow.
And it's like, well, how much advertising can you buy for that? And
Yeah.
now with social media, like I'm looking at my young adult series, Michael Vey, and it's like, well, I miss these kids and getting out there. And so we did a Zoom meeting, and we couldn't have anticipated. We had 1,500 kids came on.
Oh, wow.
And the funny thing is, like, we were going to take questions, but they were typing in the chat. When you have 1,500 kids who are
Yes.
actively typing, you can't see it. It's a blur. The
Oh,
things
yeah.
going by are a blur. So
Yeah.
it's like, well, there's questions. We know there's lots of questions. We just can't stop any of them, and so we don't know what you're asking.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's insane. And do you just do that out of your house? Your Zoom calls out of your house?
So,
or-
yes.
Okay.
That was technically at my ranch when I did that. This one of the good things that has happened. I have a ranch in southern Utah, which is my favorite place in the world.
Nice.
And with COVID, my son was over in Europe. When he came back, he had to be quarantined. It's like, well, I can't stay in the house for 2 weeks. So I went down there, the ranch, and I've spent a lot of time down there just riding, and there's just, fresh air, and
Yes.
it's on 200 acres, and it's just like there's no one around.
Right, right.
So it's awesome.
Wow. Do you do your writing down there too, or?
A lot. This with Noel Letter, I did a lot of the writing.
Got it.
Yeah, I've spent almost 3 months down there this year, which I've never done before. I usually spend like a few weeks a year.
Wow, very interesting. If you don't mind me asking, how long does it take you to start and complete a book, like, let's say, the Noel Letters?
About 5 months.
5 months. Perfect. So from the time that you get the idea, boom, on paper.
Yeah. But the thing is, I have people say, "What's your discipline?" Because Mary Higgins Clark, and I loved Mary, and I'm sad she's gone. But she told me that she had this really strict schedule, ritual, that she'd get up every day at the same time, 6:30, go out, she'd start write, then she'd make some tea, write some more, and she'd
Yeah.
be done by noon, and live her life.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like along the line of James Patterson, we're ad guys. So I used to write radio commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that's kind of and that's why I know all the radio people I was asking you about,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I worked with a lot of radio stations, and we write books that are a little bit different. We have a lot of chapters, short chapters, because we're used to writing TV commercials, right? Like 30 seconds at a time.
Yeah.
Usually very compelling. You move you through them. They have to be very spare for that reason. We don't want to get laid down things that will bore you.
Right.
But also I have the same concept of kind of cramming for everything. It's like, okay, we have a deadline.
Yes.
And so we hit deadlines. And so when I finished the Noel Letters, I was behind. It was slow, and I locked myself in a hotel room. And I had been there. They basically gave me like 2 weeks. It's like, it has to be in by this time, or you're not going to have a book out this fall.
Oh.
And I was way behind. I was like halfway through the book. It's like, you can't write half a book in 2 weeks.
Right.
So I locked myself away and just wrote around the clock. I'd write till 2 in the morning, get up, sleep for a few hours, get up, write some more. And I remember Diane came in to bring me lunch, and I go, man, I can't believe I've been here for a week already. And she looked at me, she goes, you've been here 10 days.
Oh, wow.
It's like I lost 3 days somewhere. So
Oh my gosh.
I know. So and I got it, and I said, hey, I'm actually going to get it in on noon the day before. It's like, I'm actually going to get it in earlier. It's like,
Yeah.
right. So at 3:30 in the morning, I finish it. So I push the button. It's like, no, there's never noon. There's always a 1,000 other changes I'm going to make, and push the button. And I sat there. It's like, it's done. I can't believe this has almost killed me. And then all of a sudden, the room starts spinning. Seriously, within 30 seconds, I got to enjoy it. Then the room starts spinning. I thought, I'm going to either throw up or pass out. I finally just curled up in a fetal position on the bed. And the next morning, I called Diane. I said, I am so sick. I go, you have to come pack the room. And my wife came and got me, and we just put a cold pack on and went to my ranch.
Wow.
It took about 2 days to just recover from that.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's intense. That's a very intense story. So you started I didn't know that you started off writing ads. When did you realize you were going to be an author of novels?
Well, I was actually working for Senator Bennett. My agency was me and a man named Evan Tweed, Tweed Evans Advertising. We were doing a lot of the political stuff. We took on a lot of the, that's why I was so involved with talk radio. We took on Enid Green.
Okay.
Got her elected.
Wow.
Yeah, got Merrill Cook
Nice.
We took out some hard cases and won them, and so but I was in Senator Bennett's office, and he had just come through, and I had run for the state legislature. I was only 29, and I had won the Republican primary, and I lost by 100 voters.
Wow.
And best thing that ever happened to me. And I thought, wow, it's first Tuesday of November, and it's like, I have this time till Christmas. I'm going to write a Christmas story because I had all this time off and we had made money on it. It's like I'm just going to just relax. We've been working 80-hour weeks for the last 4 months.
Huh?
It's like I'm just going to write this book, and so I wrote it. And I remember I came in after I finished it. I gave it to the receptionist and I went to lunch. When I came back, she goes, I got in so much trouble because she was sobbing. And and the someone from the campaign came and got mad at her because she was crying on the phone. It's like, you don't cry on the phone. But the book was so moving, and that was a Christmas box. So I didn't, but that was just for my family. I didn't have these grandiose plans because these people are spending their whole life trying to be writers.
Right.
And I just, it's kind of the same way everyone can be president of the United States. It's like not really.
Right. Right.
And so I didn't really pursue it until I am a marketer like you. I'm an entrepreneur, and so when I started to see the trends, like I gave out 30 copies, and within a few weeks, it'd been read 160 times.
Wow.
It's like, well, that's viral.
Yeah.
And when all of a sudden I saw, in fact, someone told me that in Harvard Business School they were using the Christmas box as an example of viralness, but that was before social media. Yeah. And we would have sold 30 million copies if we had had Facebook.
Right.
Yeah, it's just that was just one at a time. People would read the book, tell their friends, and it would just spread.
Amazing. All right, well, we're going to take a commercial break, but I don't know if you know this, Richard. You have a story that has literally, you and Arnold Schwarzenegger have shared something that's stuck with me when I've progressed forward in my entrepreneur world. And it's your story that if you don't mind sharing when we come back from commercial break, of you getting up on stage on that empty chair.
Oh, take the seat.
Yes. Arnold Schwarzenegger gave a speech that said, to be successful, you have to break the rules, not the law, but the rules. And you broke the rules, and I didn't realize, I'd heard your story, I heard his story, they both stuck in me, and then they kind of now merged into like literally, how I take action today. It's like, hey, I'm gonna...
The Gordian knot.
Yeah. So I've been inspired. I think it's been probably about 8 or 9 years ago when I heard you tell that story. And that story stuck with me to this day, literally on me making decisions that I make today. So thank you for sharing that a long time ago. But I'd love for you to share it again when we get back from commercial break. All right, we are back. You are listening to K-Talk Radio 1640 AM. This is the show, Utah Home Sweet Home. I'm your host, Yoshi Strachey. Our very special guest today is Richard Paul Evans. Thank you again, Richard, for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, so I was going to use another word, but let's stick with courage. That it took to be able to take that type of action, knowing that it could completely bomb, and it's the as people that go to sport games that see an empty seat down lower in the stadium and they walk down and sit and then they get caught. It's the walk of shame as you're walking back up, right? And you definitely could have experienced the walk of shame, but you didn't care. You took some massive action. Do you mind sharing that story?
Well, I did care. It was terrifying. But, the reality is, for success, your desire has to be stronger than your fears. And so in this case, when the Christmas box came out, I couldn't find a publisher. Everyone rejected the book. They didn't think it would sell. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up self-publishing the book. And this is before there was Amazon.com, and distribution was always a problem. And we also didn't have any really big chain stores. Barnes & Noble was growing. Yeah. We had Walden. If you remember Walden books that were in the malls. Yeah. That was kind of the biggest thing.
Got it.
And so what we had were thousands of independent bookstores. It was a fun time. It was like kind of like radio used to be. Everything was like the Wild West, and everyone had their own store.
Right.
But when you're decentralized like that, then you have to see a whole lot of people. Yeah. Right. So you have to talk to 1,000 different bookstores, or 4,000. So I would go to shows, and so I was in Denver at the Rocky Mountain Plains Booksellers, and I would rent a booth, and it'd be like $500 for a booth. Mm-hmm. Which is a lot of money for me. I didn't have a lot of money, and I would look there. I'd sit there and look for people that had red tags, because red tags meant they owned a bookstore. Right. Well, I'd been there until about noon, and I'd only seen 2 red tags, and it's like, what gives?
Yeah.
It's like, this is, it's no use for me to talk to other authors, right?
Right, right.
So finally, I went to one of the show's organizers, and I said, "Where's all the booksellers?"
Yeah.
And it's Mountain Plains Booksellers, and she said, "Well, they're in Hall B with the authors."
Huh.
Well, Hall B. So I walk over to this other hall, and sure enough, it's just jam packed with booksellers. And what they had this dais at the front of the room, and there'd be like 4 famous authors. It'd be like John Grisham and Stephen King, and they're up at this table, and I'm looking at it, and then all the booksellers would be in these long lines, and they get to meet these famous authors and get a free book, their newest book coming out, get it autographed and meet the author. It's like, well,
yeah.
How do you compete with that? Of course they're over here.
Right.
And I'm just looking at this thinking how sad this is, because these are the people I need, and then I realize that there's an empty seat up on the stage.
Yes.
And that little voice said to me, "You want to be a best-selling author? There's an empty seat up there. Go take it."
Wow.
And it's a great metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the seat. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm not going to take the seat. That's crazy. They'll throw me out. I mean,
Right.
there's guards up there. You don't just walk up and take the seat.
Right.
And so I start to walk away, and that little voice said, "How much do you care about your dreams?
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to fight for them, who will?"
Right.
And it's like, dang, I'm going to do this. And I went back to my booth and grabbed a box of books and walked around that big crowd and went around back and came up, and I sat down with my books on the stage.
Wow.
And between two famous authors.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, this is going to be bad. Just then, sure enough, someone starts walking over towards me. It's like, oh no, I'm terrified. It's like, it's going to be so embarrassing. There's hundreds of people here, and they're just going to throw me out. And the woman gets to me, and I turn and I look up at her, and I don't know where this came from. I looked at her, and I said, "I'm sorry I'm late." And it just came out of my mouth. And
Yeah.
she just looked at me like, oh.
You belong here.
All of a sudden, it's like, am I wrong?
Yeah.
It's like she didn't want to be embarrassed. So
Right.
she's like, "Well, may I get you some water?" And I go, "That'd be great."
Yeah.
So that day I signed books to hundreds and hundreds of booksellers at that conference. And the next year, my book was already early on, it was already scheduled to be, one of the biggest books in the country. It was actually the number 2 book in America.
Amazing.
So I'm invited back to the show.
Yes.
But this time I have an entourage, right? The
Yes.
book had sold for $4.25 million. Everyone knew about it. It was in all
Yes.
the industry journals, and so I have my agent, and I have a publisher rep and a sales rep, and all of these. I have my media publicist, and so I'm at the same show in Denver. They
Yes.
send me there, but this time I'm on the cover of the program, and I'm invited to that same room, same table.
Yes.
Right. And so I sit down, and that same woman was there from the volunteer, the woman who was going to
Yeah.
now was there from the year before. And this time the other authors want my autograph, and it's like I have a little table with my name on it this
Yes.
time, right? So it's like I belong this time.
Right.
Well, she walks up to me, and I said, "Do you know who I am?" She goes, "Yes, Mr. Evans, your book's very famous. Everyone here knows who you are." I said,
Yeah.
No. I said, "No, do you remember me?"
Yeah.
I go, "From last year." She goes, "No, I was here last year. You weren't here."
Oh.
And then she just looks at me for a moment. She goes, "Oh my gosh, you're that guy that crashed the book signing." I go, "Yes, I am." And she goes, "Wow, you did it. You made it." And I said, "Well, thank you for not throwing me out." She goes, "I was going to, but when you looked me in the eyes, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't bring myself to do it." She goes, "Congratulations. Let me get you some water."
Holy cow.
And it's like, that is so much of what life is. It's like, it's right there. Take the seat.
Yes.
It's going to take courage. It's going to take a chance of failure and a chance of embarrassment. Just take the seat.
Yes.
And that's how grateful I am for that story. I'm grateful that that my desire was stronger than my fear.
Yes, I love that. I love it. Desire stronger than the fear. That's great. If you don't mind sharing, so the day after this book signing, did you get a call, or how long did it take before all of a sudden the results paid off of stepping on stage?
It was all gradual.
Gotcha.
It was just gradual.
Yeah.
There was a lot of hard times. I mean, it took a lot. There were some dark moments, and I
Yeah.
really thought, man, you're a fool. I mean, I look back now, and I was completely insane. I printed up 400,000 copies. This just shows how off I was. I kind of just guessed. My first book, I printed up 7,000 copies because I knew 7 bookstores. I figured the average book sold 1,000 copies per bookstore.
Yeah.
You know what they actually sell?
No.
The average book, like in all the Borders
Yeah.
bookstores, 1.8 copies.
Oh, jeez.
The average book sells 1.8 copies.
Wow.
Yeah. So, which means some don't even sell that, right?
Right.
And so, but the Christmas box was unique. I mean, it was, I had one bookstore, sold more than 5,000 copies of the book.
Amazing.
So I just had this incredible faith, and part of it was just seeing how people responded to it, that they would share it. And I was out selling John Grisham in the local bookstores, and no one was out selling John Grisham back then.
Wow.
And so that's, it was a crazy time. And now that I really know the industry after 30 years in it and meeting all the top publishers in the world, I mean, I have an inside look that few people have of the industry, and look back and it's like, man, you were bold. Sometimes my favor, fate favors the bold, but also I think fools tread where angels fear.
Yes, wow. So another thing that I remember in this talk that I heard you give a long time ago is that you shared you are very good at marketing. And your publisher had asked if you'd be willing to teach a class to other authors, and you're like, why would I do that? I'm great at marketing.
Oh, I was actually thinking, hey, that sounds fun. And my agent's the one that she literally
said,
gotcha. She goes, hell no.
Oh.
She goes, why in the world would he arm his competition? And it's like, really? If you want to pay him for it, it's like... So.
Right.
Yeah, it was my agent. I just thought it sounded fun, actually.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. So where I'm going with that is you're also an entrepreneur, not just an author in other businesses. And I saw this talk online that you gave that was phenomenal, and it said 2020, but nobody had a mask on, so I don't know if it was really 2020. But nonetheless, you talked about why some of the greats believe that they are here for a purpose, and then the rest of us can go through life barely making a ripple in our life. How can someone discover the reason they're here or born? Some people I think are blessed with confidence, maybe, and they work on it, or they just already have it. Some don't have as much confidence. Some believe they're here for this. Some don't know that they have a belief that they're here for anything. But I believe everybody's here for a reason, and some people probably just don't know how to grasp that. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your thoughts on kind of that talk that you gave? Do you recall this talk? You gave it to a bunch of teachers,
I believe.
Absolutely.
What it was is it was why do some people accomplish great things with their lives and others barely make it and just kind of float. And I want to start by saying defining what I believe great is, because people confuse fame with greatness.
Sure.
On the way here, I was talking with my assistant about a family, and this, they had a severely autistic son, and the husband just bailed.
Got it.
And it's like, why? What has happened to dignity?
Yeah.
The greatest things I've done, the greatest moments were not limelight moments. The greatest moments were times that I, as a father, defended my children, that I put up, that I sacrificed to take care of them, that I was honorable to my wife. This is greatness.
Right.
Okay, the other stuff, it's like, it's just marketing.
Right.
And that's the first thing. What is true greatness?
Sure.
My greatest moments have been very quiet moments, very silent, that few people know even happened. When I was victorious over myself. Mm-hmm. And that's why I love to take the seat. It's like it was a moment of personal triumph. It's like, I'm terrified.
Right.
But I did it, and it could have gone really bad, and I would have just been another fool.
Right.
But I did it anyway.
Yeah.
And it wasn't when all of a sudden I hit #1 in the New York Times and the press is everywhere. It's like that wasn't the great moment. It was the moment that was silent that no one really saw coming.
Gotcha.
So anyway, having said that, so what I discovered is I love to read biographies, biographies, and I've studied the lives of more than probably 300 men and women who have changed the world. And they were all so different. I mean, why do people succeed? And I was just looking for that question, for that answer to that question, and I think I found it. And the one thing I just saw over and over and over is that the only thing they had in common is that they believed they were supposed to. Mm-hmm. And that was it. They believed it. It's like,
yeah.
And so they had that sense. And it's like, that is, I mean, whether you're talking about George Washington or Hitler, it's like they believed they had a cause and a purpose. And so if you don't believe you have that, I don't think you have a chance.
Right.
And the other thing people say, well, how do you find your greatness? First of all, define greatness. And then be great. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love talking, Yoshi, just talking to you. It's like, within a few minutes, I thought he has a great heart.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and because the things you said weren't. I mean, you mentioned. I go, oh, this is really cool. He's like he was the hairdresser for the stars, like Cooper Anderson and Matthew Broderick, people I admire, and it's like, but that wasn't what you led with. What you led with is we were talking about how cool you thought it would be if you could mentor some teenagers that were struggling.
Oh,
That's greatness.
thank you.
Okay, those are the quiet moments, and so that's, I mean, seriously, that did far more for me just watching that. It's like, I like this guy. Okay, this guy's real. And those are the people who, frankly, I hope become very powerful and very successful, because we need, when people have the basics right, when they have their first kingdom in order, when that's when they really can be lights to the world. Too many people just try to be lights in the superficial, and they have nothing to offer.
Right.
But when you actually are solid, you know, and it's always, I look at it, it's like it is those little times. I mean, I was thinking on the way here, Dia had mentioned something that, someone went to an event and got kicked out, and I was thinking, one time I was walking into a bookstore, it was in, I think, Indiana, and I was having, with Michael Vey, I had 4,000 kids come to one book signing. I was having big book signings, and I'm walking in, and I see a little boy walking out of the store carrying my book, and he looked really sad. And I said, "Boy, I said, you're going the wrong way." I just kind of joking, saying, and the woman didn't know who I was. Yeah. Okay, and she turned, she goes, "Oh, they kicked us out." And I said, "They did? Why?" And she said, "Well, because we didn't buy the book here." So she said, "My son can't have a sign," and he was obviously very upset. And I said, "Oh, did they now?" I said, "I guess." I go, "What's your name?" And he said, I'm Tom. And he's like, I'm Richard Paul Evans. I wrote this book.
Wow.
And I said, "We're gonna have a private book signing, okay?" And all of a sudden, you see the mother just freeze, and it's like, and then tears are flowing down her cheeks. And I go, "Hey, my dad, I get it." It's like, And so he got to have the special moment. I said, "Do you want a picture together? Do you want?" And says, "I can spend some time." It's like, those are beautiful moments, and they're moments I remember and think about, and that's important.
Yes.
That's to me, those are the real great moments.
Awesome.
And usually they're the only ones you remember. Actually.
Right. Right. That's true. That is so inspiring. I love that. Man, yeah, that resonates so well with me. Then I realized, no, you don't have to be necessarily the Johnny Depp, the Brad Pitt, the De Niro, the Al Pacino. There's local entertainers and that's the passion, was entertaining. It wasn't being Al Pacino. It was entertaining. And so this talk that you gave, like the what if, take riskful action. That was something that I really loved. Riskful action. Swing at every ball. It's so funny, as you told that story, you had said on stage, you were telling the story on stage, that nobody steps up to the plate and it doesn't leave swinging. Here's a little side story. I actually was terrified as a Little League baseball player. I think I was like in 5th grade, first year of baseball. And I had never played baseball really before. And so when I would get up to the plate, I was the kid that didn't swing once and just hoped that my odds were I'd walk first. Yeah. So when you said nobody ever steps up to the plate and doesn't swing, I was like, oh, actually I did. But create your map inspired by love. That was something else that I really loved. Do you mind sharing a little bit about this what if and take riskful action?
Yeah, the what if, in fact, that take the seat was kind of part of the what if story. I tell this story, and it's like, especially kids love it, but this is the story they usually walk away with. It's the story of Heather Jennings.
Yes. And
it's like I've watched people in life that they rush into failure. And by that, because they let their fears counsel them, it's like, well, if I try to introduce myself to that person, they might not want to meet me, and so I'm not going to introduce myself, and hence you never meet them. And so you basically chose failure. Right. All right. I would like to try that career, but I might fail in it, so I don't go after it. So in other words, you just failed in that career. Mm-hmm. We embrace failure. It's like, man, if I go skiing tonight, I might break my leg. I'll stay home and break my leg. It makes no sense. Right. But we do that. We do it all the time. And so I had a woman who taught me this. Her name was Heather Jennings. She was the most beautiful girl in 9th grade at Bonneville Junior High. And first time I saw Heather was a religious experience. It was on a bus. I remember just seeing her, and it's like I couldn't believe that someone could be that beautiful. It's like the angels were singing. There's a light around her, and I said, "Who is that?" To the guy next to me, someone I don't really know. And he's like, "It's Heather Jennings. She's new." It's like, "She's out of your league, man." Well, I knew that. I mean, I had Tourette syndrome. I have Tourette syndrome. I had acne. I was poor. It's like, yeah, I get it, right? But I could dream, and that's probably one of those powerful gifts I have. My superpower is daydreaming. And so I dreamt about Heather. Just all summer long. It's like, what would it be he'd like to have a girlfriend like Heather Jennings. And so the next school year starts. I'm at Cotwood High School.
Yeah.
And the third period class, I sit down. I'm a sophomore, terrified. Sit down in a row of chairs by myself, and suddenly into the room walks Heather Jennings. I can't believe it. She looks around the room, and she crosses the room. She sits down at the desk next to mine. It's like, how could you say there is no God?
Right.
It's like, but I'm terrified. I don't see this as an opportunity. I see this as terror.
Yes.
And so I don't even talk to her. And after like 3 days, you're going to say something, right? And I soon learned that she's like beautiful on the inside, that she was really sweet. And it's like when she was like, oh, she's nice to me. And so I get this wacky idea that why don't I ask her the homecoming dance?
Yeah.
Now this is back in the days when you could do it without a helicopter.
Right.
But it was still really hard. I mean, it was harder that way because you'd have to look in the eyes. And
right.
It was like sheer rejection.
Exactly.
And so every day I just get ready and just like I'd wait till the bell would ring because I would never ask before class. It would be really bad. And then I just like, Heather, and it's like, yeah. It's like, and I just freeze up. It's like, well, did you get the homework? And every day was like that. And after like 2 weeks, it's like, okay, she's gonna get asked. I've got to ask today.
Yeah.
And all weekend long, I'm just suffering through this. Like, I'm going to ask. And walking to class, I told someone, it's like, I'm gonna put it out there. It's like, I'm gonna ask Heather Jennings the homecoming. And
yeah.
Goes, oh, she was asked a long time ago. It's like, who asked her?
Yeah.
Tim Walmsley.
Uh-huh.
Now you don't know Tim Walmsley probably, but you do because every school in America has a Tim Walmsley. You're over there nodding your head.
Yeah.
Co-captain of the softball football team, perfect hair, kind of just naturally golden,
Yeah.
back. And it's like, wow, Mr. Poor acne Tourette's guy is going to go out with Heather Jennings when she's Tim Walmsley material. Dodge that bullet. Well, school, I never dated Heather, voted for her when she was senior prime royalty, but that's as close as I got.
Yeah.
The 5-year class reunion. High school ends, I come back to 5-year class reunion. Been there for a little while, and into the room walks Heather Jennings.
Uh-huh.
Still gorgeous. She walks up to me first.
Yeah.
And we have this great conversation. We just talk for a moment, and she looks at her watch. She goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm monopolizing you." It's like I don't care.
Yeah.
My wife did. But she goes, "It's good to see you, Rick. It's really good to see you too." She starts to walk away. She stops and turns around. She goes, "Can I ask you something?" And I go, "Yeah, of course." She goes, "You probably don't remember, but we sat next to each other our sophomore year, third period." Yeah, I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
She goes, "I had the biggest crush on you.
Wow.
Why didn't you ever ask me out?"
Huh.
She goes, "I even bought new clothes hoping you would notice me." Oof. And I'm thinking, someone just shoot me now, please. Just put me down. It's like, I mean, everything I wanted in my life was right there, and I didn't take it. And so when I talk about, taking risky action, it's like I got exactly what I deserved, which is nothing.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. And that's what leads into the story about take the seat. It's like, okay, this is a Heather Jennings moment.
Yes.
I can leave here and nothing happens. I might be embarrassed, might be humiliated, but I felt either way.
Right.
So get over it. But the other part of that is the what if scenario. And this is really important because this is how we develop a life and develop what we want. We ask the what if question. And when an author sits down to write a book, with my Michael Bay series, what if a 15-year-old boy finds out that a 15-year-old boy has electric powers?
Right.
What would that look like in this world? And he finds out he's one of 17 kids.
Yeah.
Harry Potter, what if this boy finds out he's really a wizard?
Right.
It's like, it's always the what if scenario. Well, that's how we live our lives. Our lives are stories. So you look at the what if. Mm-hmm. So like one year my wife came to me and said, "What if we moved to Italy?" It's like, I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. That's not rational. I have businesses here, and next thing I know, we're moving to Italy. We moved to Florence, and it was a powerful experience.
Wow.
It impacted, my kids spoke 2 languages. It impacted them.
Wow.
My daughter, her first book was called Love and Gelato. It was about her time in Italy. It became an international bestseller.
Wow.
She sold the movie rights, and just now she's a big author. And it's like it impacted so many lives. But it was a what if. What if we moved to Italy? And there were so many cool things that came from that hard experience. I mean, it was hard at first.
Yeah.
But then it's like, now we love Italy. We go, in fact, Carrie goes 2 or 3 times a year. Usually.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. I love that story because that is truly a story of inspiration. There's so many times that I've failed, but I always say if you don't try, you for sure fail.
Right.
You got to at least try. You might fail, but
Well, it's Wayne Gretzky. You miss every shot you don't take.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I want to chat, if you don't mind, about the Christmas box house.
Yeah.
Yes. So, if you could please, I guess, share a little bit. First, I guess what it is. I mean, everybody's heard of it in Utah, right? But maybe you could share a little bit more about what it is. And
it's actually a concept. I mean, we talk about the shelters. We have 3 shelters in Utah. They're emergency shelters for kids who are taken from abusive situations. If you see like a meth house that's busted on the news,
yeah.
and there's children in there, we get them.
Gotcha.
And we're like a safety net, which didn't exist before. And so think about that. You pull a kid, you pull 5 siblings from a meth house.
Yes.
What do you do with them?
Seriously.
And that's what happened. It was like, well, let's find someone to take them. It's like, and disasters were happening.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, no, and on both levels, the kids are re-traumatized, and
yeah.
it's like, well, let's just keep them together and let's make good choices. So it was
right.
a way for us to buy time,
yeah,
and to help them. So that's what we have the shelters, but we're more than that. We're advocates.
Got it.
And so we have these resource closets. So like when a foster parent needs diapers or something, we do more than $1 million a year of things that they need. You know, whether it's a high chair for a new kid, a foster guys in the state dealing with kids. He goes, Rick, this is already felt. You don't know. You don't know. You don't even know that the ship is sinking. You don't even know it. It's
right.
like it's already sunk. You're
right.
done. And I said, well, I guess I'm going down with the ship then, aren't I?
Hmm.
And he just looked at me and I said, I'm not quitting. And he goes, so anybody wants to resign right now, that's fine.
Yeah.
And I'm going on. They all looked at each other and said, all right, let's keep going. Things didn't just get better overnight, but we just kept chipping away, and we got there. You
wow.
know? And we got the first shelter open, and we got kids in there.
Amazing.
And as soon as kids start getting in, then people start caring. Because I mean, it's a $2 million facility, and we're getting $10 checks.
Right.
It wasn't even covering the interest on the things we're doing.
Right.
And it's like all of a sudden it's there.
Yes.
And now I look back and it's like I'm so proud of that moment. And it was just like my book. It was one of those moments. It's like, okay, I wanted to quit. I'll probably fell.
Right.
I mean, no one's done this before.
Yeah.
But you know what? Somebody's telling me to keep going. And so,
there's 12 of us in that email. Within 24 hours, including my mom, we came up with $7,100.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
Yes, that we'd like to donate to the Christmas box.
Oh my goodness, wow.
So, Josh Christensen, a really good friend of mine, Pete McCoy, Jordan Atkin.
Oh my gosh, God bless you. That's
Matt
amazing.
Strong. Yes.
Wow, that's so cool. Wow, that's so much money.
Yes. So I wanted to give you this. We left it blank because we didn't know who to write it to.
We'll just write Christmas box house in there. And,
okay.
Okay, and let me tell you something.
Yes.
I'm really proud of this. Wow, that's so much money. 88.1% of the money goes to the kids in the programs.
Wow.
That's really high for a charity that we're running on a little over 11%. By law, you only have to have 10% go to the charity.
Oh my gosh.
And we're actually the opposite of that. And we have really great staff, but they've all taken pay cuts to work for us. They do it because they have the passion. They're very skilled. They can make more money in the private sector.
Yeah.
And they love the kids. And our new executive director actually was a foster kid.
Oh my gosh.
She's been through the system, and so anyway, this is a big deal. Thank you, and to your friends, God bless you. That is so generous.
Thank you. Thank you for all you've done.
Oh wow, that's huge.
I appreciate that. Well, unfortunately, we are at the end of our show.
Well, what a great ending. Thank you.
Yes. I wanted to thank you so much again, Richard, for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking your time and coming and sharing on the show.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you. And you have the chops to make it to New York, so.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Just keep pursuing that dream. I've gotten pretty honest. I'd tell you if you did. So.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Awesome. All right. Well, everybody, you've been listening to the show Utah Home Sweet Home. This is Kate Talk Radio 1640 AM, and I hope everybody has a spectacular rest of the day. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that show. That was so much fun to hear the riskful action that Richard Paul Evans took way back when he stepped on stage, almost got kicked out, and today, look where he is, as far as achievement. I mean, it's taking those risks that help you get to where you need to go in many cases. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger says, you have to break the rules. Not the law, but the rules. If you stay within the lines of the rules, that's where everybody is. You gotta get out of that line and create your own path to success. So, lots of fun chatting with Richard Paul Evans, hearing his story from becoming a first-time author to an internationally known author, and as far as his wonderful things that he does with the children, the Christmas box house, his entrepreneurship. It was really fascinating to hear all of these components, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you liked this video, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Feel free to give it a thumbs up, and also if you have any questions or comments, put them down in the comment section below. Sorry, I'm a little bit cold. It's freezing right now, but I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, before we part ways, in case you have a dog or know someone else who does have a dog, I wanted to take a quick second to show you the Snap Leash. The Snap Leash can literally do so many things, and I'm going to share with you one of the many cool things that it can do. As you can see, the Snap Leash is designed with 2 swivel hooks, one on each end. This end has a cushion stitched into it to make it comfortable when walking your dog. Now, all you have to do is take this swivel hook, put it into this very first grommet, and now you've got your handle. Okay, so now let's imagine you're at the park and you want to secure your pet quickly, safely, and easily to a park bench, a tree, or a pole because you just want to sit down and relax. Well, all you need to do is take this swivel hook, remove it from the very first grommet, wrap this leash around any size tree or pole or park bench, and put it into the appropriate grommet, and now you have secured your pet quickly, safely, and easily. And when it's time to head home, another great feature about the Snap Leash is you can simply wrap it around your waist for hands-free walking. Lastly, if you ever accidentally forget your waist bags at home, these grommets make a great place to fasten the waist bags so you never leave home without them. And if you want to see all of the other cool things that the Snap Leash can do, then please just click on the link below and find out why so many others are falling in love with the Snap Leash.